I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What is up, guys? Fadeaway82 coming at you with a weekly Rust update video. What you're taking a look at right now is some footage of the attack helicopter, which is the first PvE event in the new version of Rust, which was added in 2 weeks ago. Since then, it's received a massive buff due to some players who are figuring out ways to take it down in a very quick and perhaps exploitative manner, namely Holdacious. Helk has gone ahead and buffed his bad boy here. It now has increased health, smaller hitboxes, and you can no longer go ahead and shoot through the helicopter and hit those hitboxes. So if you want to go ahead and take it down, you're going to have to do so in a much more calculated manner. In addition, guys, the attack helicopter is very difficult to camp now. Once it's pissed off, it's going to go ahead and bukkake you with a hot load of napalm, so that's something that you guys want to keep in mind. In addition, the attack helicopter no longer cares about your precious tool cabinets, so you can no longer go ahead and use that to your advantage and exploit the attack helicopter. The damage on the attack helicopter has been increased substantially, so you're going to notice that it shreds through players quicker. And also it has a new attack, which we're taking a look at here, which is Napalm. Napalm will light up the ground around it in a vast radius, and it will affect your wooden structures. It didn't appear to affect stone, but be aware that it will affect wooden structures. So if you have things like wooden gates or any type of wooden material down there, it's going to go ahead and start burning. The attack helicopter still has the rocket strafe, which is going to go ahead and use, but in addition, the door guns have been buffed. It now has napalm and the rocket, so it has 3 modes of attack, and it will use all of them against you. It's going to take more of a party of players to take the helicopter down now. You're no longer going to be able to solo it, so if you guys want to go ahead and do it, be aware you're going to want to be well geared to do that. Once the attack helicopter is damaged and it goes ahead and goes down to the ground, the loot crates are no longer able to be looted until the fire goes out, which takes approximately 8 minutes. The parts of the helicopter that remain on the ground can now be harvested for materials. It will give you high quality metal and metal fragments. And Gunplay has once again received some love from Facepunch. In this week's version of Rust, you're going to notice bullets and blood fly a little more freely here. The bullet speed has been greatly increased, and you're going to notice that when you're using normal rounds, it feels like you're using HV rounds. The shots are going to land on their targets much quicker, which makes for a much more visceral and intense experience when you're engaged in a gun battle. If you go ahead and use HV rounds, it seems absolutely insane in terms of the rate of fire. As always, mileage is going to vary depending on what type of gun you're using, but in general, you're going to notice bullets are flying much faster. It also means they're coming faster out of that attack helicopter, so keep that in mind too. And with this week, a nerf has been brought to the bow. You guys are going to notice that headshots are no longer OP, and they now have been toned down quite a bit, which was a much needed addition to the game. The bow was able to be used to take down well-geared players a little bit too easily, and that's no longer going to be the case. You can still do it, but you're going to have to land more shots. In addition to nerfing the headshots, the arrows now fire at a slower rate, and the velocity of those arrows is going to be a little bit slower. Of course, if you use the high velocity arrows, it's going to be quicker, but in general, the bow fires at a slower rate. It also has a little bit more sway to it when you're aiming down the sights, so that's something that you guys want to be aware of. In terms of the crossbow, that has received some love. That has been buffed in a sense. It now fires with 50% more velocity, and the hollow sight now functions appropriately on that, which allows me to shoot Holdacious in the penis in a much more effective manner with the crossbow. So that's something that you guys want to keep in mind. In addition, guys, be aware that there's some new ambient sounds in the game. There's now thunder, which you'll hear when it's raining, and when the environment is right, you'll hear thunder in the distance, which is a really cool effect. And your metabolism also is going to be increased in this week's iteration of Rust, so you're going to need to eat more food to keep things going. Bringing this back to the day's legacy, you guys are going to notice that the small stash has been added back into Rust. However, it functions a bit differently now. It is going to be a default blueprint. It's going to cost you 30 cloth to go ahead and make it, and it's going to be very good for new players or players who don't really want to have maybe a main house or who just want to hide things in general. The small stash is a 6-slot storage item, and it will not allow you to place it in your home, so that's something you want to keep in mind. You do have to place it outside in the environment. You can go ahead and pull up a menu, which is going to allow you to bury that, and when you bury it, you will not be able to see where it is, so you have to remember where you put it. It doesn't just pop through the ground until you look at it for a length of time. It's about 5 to 6 seconds of looking at that location before it's going to emerge to the ground. So other players can find it, and when they do find it, they'll be able to loot it, but chances are it's going to be very difficult to locate. If you guys want to go ahead and place one of these, again, try to do it by a landmark where you can find your way back to it easily. Here's a tip, guys. If you really want to find an effective way to use it, it can actually be placed underwater. So you can go ahead and use that small storage stash and use it underwater, and that's going to be a much more effective way to hide it in a place that's less predictable. And building roof tiles have received some love in this week's version of Rust. They're now cheaper and they're a bit tougher, so you might see some more bases that look like this, which is pretty cool because it's a pretty cool looking aesthetic, and that's really good stuff. In addition, guys, Gary has spent the past couple weeks focusing on cleaning up garbage, which is going to help to optimize the game, but it's not these garbage piles we've seen on the ground. It's rather code in the game, which is going to help the servers to function better, have less lag, and better performance overall. That's always much needed, so this patch might not seem like a lot in terms of being feature rich, but it's a performance enhancing patch. The dungeons that we all wanted didn't make it in for this week's version of the procedurally generated terrain. We'll see it in about a month. Can't wait for it. As always, guys, hope you enjoyed this week's update video. Fado82, peace.